As a light drizzle blanketed Seattle, the wet streets reflected the darkness of the sky, and Oliver Graham stood in front of a floor-to-ceiling window of a high-rise building, the heat from his coffee creating a white haze on the glass. He frowned lightly, wiped the vapor away with his fingers, and looked out the window at the steady flow of traffic. At the opposite workstation, his colleagues were discussing the latest case. Oliver did not participate in the discussion, but fell into deep thought alone. After work, Oliver drove home. When he opened the door, the living room was quiet. "Eve?" he called. Evelyn poked her head out of the din. "You're home? Dinner will be ready soon." Oliver nodded, loosened his tie, and sat down on the couch. His eyes fell on Evelyn's sketchbook spread out on the coffee table, the sketches outlining her creative world in which he could not participate. Evelyn came out of the kitchen with dinner. "How was your day?" she asked softly as she sat down across from Oliver. Oliver shrugged. "The usual, one case after another." "You look a little tired," Evelyn said with concern. "Yeah, I haven't been sleeping too well lately,"
Oliver sighed.
The two of them ate their dinner quietly, occasionally chatting about trivial matters, but always felt that there was a layer of invisible glass. Oliver looked at the opposite side of Evelyn's eyelashes drooped slightly, her long fingers holding the knife and fork, the ring on the ring finger in the light of a soft light. He couldn't help but think of them when they were first married, young, vibrant, and full of promise for the future. Now, they were like two pieces of driftwood, drifting apart in the current of life. After dinner, Oliver took care of business in the study, while Evelyn read in the living room. The only sounds in the large house were the keyboard and the rustle of books being flipped over. Oliver looked up from time to time and saw Evelyn quietly curled up in a corner of the sofa, the floor lamp casting a soft halo of light over her. It was as if she was lost in her own world, drifting away from him. Oliver closed his laptop and rubbed his temples tiredly. He walked into the living room and sat down next to Evelyn. "What are you looking at?" he asked. Oliver didn't say anything else, but Evelyn got up, said she was going to take a shower, and went upstairs. As he listened to the sound of water coming from the bathroom, an inexplicable anxiety surged through Oliver's mind. He got up and paced the room. Outside the window, the night was getting darker in Seattle. The rain had long since stopped, and the wet streets were glowing under the streetlights. Those points of light were like him and Evelyn, barely able to keep up with each other in the darkness, their connection fragile and precarious. When the water stopped running in the bathroom, Oliver returned to the bedroom, where Evelyn was sitting in front of the dresser in her robe, blow-drying her hair, and sat down on the edge of the bed, staring at Evelyn's beautifully shaped back. Even after all these years, her beauty still touched his heart. However, it seems that this kind of heartwarming can no longer penetrate the barrier of years and life and touch the depths of her soul. "What's on your mind?" Evelyn looked at Oliver through the mirror. Oliver smiled back at her and walked up behind her, resting his hands gently on her shoulders. "It's nothing. It just seems like it's been a long time since we've had a good conversation." Evelyn stopped what she was doing. "Yeah, you've been working on a lot of cases lately, and I've been working on a lot of manuscripts. I haven't had much of a chance to talk." Oliver sighed softly. "It's not just lately. I've always felt that we've drifted apart over the years." Evelyn put down the hairdryer and turned to look at Oliver, her amber eyes slightly puzzled. "Why do you say that?"
"Because..."
Oliver opened his mouth, but realized he didn't really know how to express what he was feeling. "Forget it. I'm probably just being paranoid. You're tired. Get some rest." Oliver planted a kiss on Evelyn's forehead and went to the bathroom to wash up. Letting the warm water wash over him, he closed his eyes and countless images flashed through his mind. The heart-thumping moment when they first met, Evelyn's watering eyes when he got down on one knee to propose to her, the lingering figure on their wedding night, the overflowing joy when their daughter was born. But the girl who used to be by his side, the spirited young man, seems to have quietly disappeared into the mire of the years, worn away by the fine sand of life. Instead, there is exhaustion, depression, and unspeakable loneliness. Oliver turned off the shower, dried himself, and changed into his pajamas. When he returned to the bedroom, Evelyn was already asleep, her quiet face soft in the moonlight. and Oliver carefully laid down next to her, afraid of disturbing her dreams. He gently placed his arm around Evelyn's waist and closed his eyes. Before he fell into sleep, he vowed in his heart that he would find the spark between them and fix their faltering home. He wanted Evelyn to smile again, not stand alone in a fog of memories like tonight. But what Oliver didn't know then was that a storm, unforeseen by anyone, was about to arrive, shaking the apparently peaceful family and pushing each of them into an unknowable abyss. The sunlight flooded the room through the muslin curtains, casting dappled shadows on the floor. Evelyn rubbed her sleepy eyes and reached for her side, but her fingertips only touched the cold sheets. She braced herself and looked around. Oliver was no longer in the room. Evelyn got up, washed herself briefly, put on a thin jacket, and walked downstairs. Oliver's breakfast was left on the dining room table, with a note pressed next to it. "Breakfast is on the table. I'm going to the office first. Love you, Oliver." Evelyn smiled slightly and sat down to enjoy the breakfast Oliver prepared for her. Although Oliver was busy with his work, he never forgot to prepare breakfast for her, and this small habit became the witness of their love. After breakfast, Evelyn cleaned up the dishes, took her sketchbook, and went out for a walk. Seattle in early fall, the air is fresh and pleasant. The streets on both sides of the sycamore trees covered with golden leaves, swaying in the breeze. Evelyn walked into the park, sat down on a bench by the lake, began to sketch the surrounding scenery. Evelyn, immersed in her creative endeavors, didn't notice that there was a man sitting at the other end of the bench. With deep features and light blue eyes, he was looking intently at the book in his hand. Seemingly sensing Evelyn's gaze, the man lifted his head and gave her a slight smile. Evelyn returned the smile with some embarrassment and lowered her head to continue drawing. "You draw really well." The man suddenly spoke. Evelyn froze for a moment and looked up at him. "Thanks. Do you come here to paint often?" the man asked, closing his book and turning sideways. Evelyn nodded. "Whenever the weather is nice, I come here to practice sketching." "And you? I don't think I've ever seen you before." "I just moved to Seattle. I'm still getting used to life here." The man smiled and said, "I'm Jack." "Evelyn." Evelyn shook his hand. That's how Evelyn got to know Jack, a graphic designer who moved to Seattle for a job transfer. He was funny and well-spoken, and soon Evelyn was chatting with him. Before she knew it, the sun was already high in the sky, and Evelyn realized that she and Jack had been talking all morning. "It's getting late. I should get back." Evelyn closed her sketchbook and smiled apologetically at Jack. "I should go too." Jack got up. "Talk to you some other time?" "Sure." Evelyn nodded. "There's a great exhibit at the Seattle Art Museum this weekend. Would you be interested in going?" Jack asked tentatively. Evelyn hesitated. It didn't seem right to go out alone with a man she had just met. But Jack's expectant eyes made her reluctant to say no. "Sure, this Saturday." "Great." Jack gave a big smile. "See you then." With that, Evelyn and Jack said goodbye. On the way home, Evelyn's heart was a bit uneasy. She vaguely felt that her encounter with Jack was like opening a door to the unknown, and her life might change from now on. But she did not realize, behind this door hides what crisis and will lead her to where. Oliver returned home tired from his day's work. Before he enters, he hears Evelyn's cheerful voice from the living room. He walked in and saw Evelyn playing with her daughter Lily. When he saw Oliver return, Lily let out a cry of joy and ran over to him and jumped into his arms. Oliver picked Lily up and twirled her around, and Evelyn watched the scene with a smile on her face. "How was your day?" Oliver asked at dinner. "It was good. I went to the park and painted for a while, and I met a new friend," Evelyn said casually as she served Lily her soup. Saturday is coming soon. Evelyn dresses up, puts on a long bohemian dress, puts on a denim jacket, wears her long hair, looks youthful. Oliver looks at Evelyn's happy figure, slightly frowns. "Going out?" Oliver asked, as if offhandedly. "Yeah, Jack and I have plans to go to a painting show together," Evelyn said as she put on her shoes. "Just the two of you?" Evelyn froze for a moment and turned her head to look at Oliver. "Yeah, why?" Oliver avoided her gaze. "Nothing, just be safe. Come back early." Evelyn nodded, kissed Oliver on the cheek, and left the house. Oliver stood in front of the window and watched her back disappear around the corner, a strange feeling fluttering in his heart. Evelyn and Jack were enjoying the beautiful paintings as they made their way through the crowded exhibition, discussing the composition and colors of a particular painting or thinking about the author's mindset. Stopping to discuss the composition and colors of a particular painting, or to wonder what the author was thinking when he created it, Evelyn was surprised to find that Jack was a pleasure to talk to. They have an amazing artistic rapport, often pointing out details in a painting in unison or nodding in agreement with each other's insights. I really didn't expect to meet someone with whom I have so much in common, Jack exclaimed after the tour. God, I should go home. Evelyn got up hastily. The subway station was packed, and Evelyn stood on the platform and smiled back at Jack. Thanks for the invite. I had a great day. Seeing Evelyn on the subway, Jack turned to leave. Evelyn leaned against the window. Thinking back on the day's experience, the corners of her mouth unconsciously rose. She felt as if she had rediscovered the joy of life, and the pleasure of chatting with her confidant made her feel immensely satisfied. However, Evelyn's smile instantly disappeared when she opened the door and saw Oliver sitting on the couch with a serious face. Where have you been? What took you so long to get back now? Oliver questioned. Oliver watched Evelyn go upstairs and sighed heavily, scratching his hair in annoyance. He had a vague feeling that something was changing, and he seemed powerless to stop it. Over the next few weeks, Evelyn and Jack became more and more involved in each other's lives. They met at a cafe or in a park to sketch, sometimes discussing art and life, sometimes just sitting quietly side by side. Gradually, their conversations began to reach a more intimate level, as Jack confided in Evelyn about his loneliness, his insecurities, and his confusion. Evelyn, on the other hand, confides in her marital repression and expresses her longing for freedom. Sometimes I feel like there's an invisible wall between Oliver and me. One day, Evelyn said to Jack, "We're like two parallel lines that never cross." Jack patted her hand soothingly. "I understand how you feel. Marriage is sometimes like a cage, confining people inside. But we all want to fly free." Evelyn gave him a grateful look. It was so precious for her to meet someone who understood her. She even began to wonder if her life would have been different if she had met Jack. Evelyn was looking forward to seeing Jack more and more, and only with him did she feel like a living entity, not just Oliver's wife and Lily's mother. It was only with him that she felt like a living entity, not just Oliver's wife and Lily's mother. And Jack had awakened her soul and made her embrace life again. She loved the sparkle in Jack's eyes when he looked at her, the softness of his voice when he spoke, and the unspoken understanding between them. She knows that she is falling into a dangerous trap, but deep inside, a voice tells her, "Let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go for yourself." What Evelyn hadn't noticed, however, was that Oliver's gaze always fell on her thoughtfully. He sensed a change in his wife, a renewed sparkle in her eyes. He should have been happy for her, but for some reason, there was always a vague uneasiness in his heart. Finally, one day, when Evelyn left the house early for another exhibition, Oliver made a decision. He followed. In the crowded gallery, Oliver saw a scene that broke his heart. Evelyn was holding a man's arm as they walked through the gallery, talking and laughing. From time to time, the man leaned over and whispered something in Evelyn's ear, causing her to giggle like a silver bell. Evelyn, on the other hand, smiled a smile Oliver hadn't seen in years, as if glowing with happiness. Oliver's body went cold, as if someone had poured ice water over his head. He couldn't believe his eyes, and he couldn't believe it was real. He stumbled out of the gallery and wandered aimlessly through the streets, letting his mind wander. When did it start? Why didn't he notice? Could it be that the cracks in their marriage had already appeared and were only hidden by the calmness on the surface? Or did he never know what was going on inside Evelyn's head? Oliver covered his face in pain, not knowing how to face this cruel truth. That night, Oliver didn't go home. He sat in his office all night, looking out the window at the brightly lit night scene of Seattle, but felt nothing but desolation. He thought of their little moments, their vows, and Lily's innocent smile, and his heart was cut to the bone. He didn't understand why they had come to this point. He didn't understand how to go on. As the sky turned white, Oliver made a decision. He was going to have a showdown with Evelyn, and he was going to find out, no matter what the outcome. The marriage might be dead in the water, but he couldn't go on like this. He wanted an answer, even if it meant that the two most important women in his life were about to leave him. Oliver took a deep breath, got up, straightened his suit, and walked out of the office with a determined look on his face. The streets of Seattle were as silent in the morning as he was at that moment. He drove home and, as Evelyn looked on in disbelief, he slowly said, "We need to talk." "About what?" Evelyn asked with a sense of composure, but a sense of foreboding. "About you and that man," Oliver said, staring at her, word for word. Evelyn instantly turned pale. What are you talking about? What man?" "Don't pretend, Evelyn," Oliver smiled bitterly. "I saw it all. Yesterday at the art gallery, you were laughing and joking with that man. Do you think I didn't know?" Evelyn looked at Oliver blankly, her lips trembling slightly, unable to speak for a moment. Oliver took a deep breath and pushed down the anger in his heart. "I'll ask you, what is your relationship? Why are you doing this?" Evelyn looked away, and after a long silence, she finally spoke. "His name is Jack, and he's a new friend of mine." "Friend?" Oliver sneered. "Would a friend hold your hand so intimately? Would a friend make you look that happy?" "Jesus, Evelyn, do you think I'm stupid?" "No, Oliver, it's not what you think," Evelyn explained in a panic. "Then what is it?" Oliver was furious. "You tell me what I think is wrong? That you're dating other men behind my back? Or that you're planning to run away from home?" "I'm not going to run away," Evelyn cried. "How can you say that? How can I say that?" "Then tell me, why have you been so absent these past few weeks? Why have you been ignoring Lily and me? Do you think I don't see that you've changed?" Oliver hissed. Evelyn hugged herself, sobbing uncontrollably. "I'm sorry, Oliver. I didn't mean to hurt you. I'm just so tired." Oliver was stunned. "Tired? What are you talking about?" Evelyn lifted her tear-stained face. "Over the years, I feel like we've grown apart. You're always so busy with work, we hardly talk to each other. I'm suffocating on my own with the family and the kids." Oliver frowned. "But, Eve, don't I work hard for this family too? I thought you understood what I do." "I do," Evelyn choked out. "But that doesn't mean I won't be lonely. Do you know how long it's been since I've had a good conversation? Do you know how long it's been since I've felt wanted and appreciated? I was living like a zombie until I met Jack." Oliver felt a wave of vertigo. He crumpled on the couch and suddenly seemed to empathize with his wife. He understood every word she said, the struggles and aggravations she was feeling. But at the same time, a great panic gripped his heart. He was afraid of losing Evelyn, afraid that the family would be broken. "So what do you want?" Oliver asked in a long silence, his voice exhausted. "Are you planning to leave me?" Evelyn shuddered, tears rolling down her cheeks again. "I don't know, Oliver. I really don't know. I love you, but I can't live like this anymore. I need to. I need to go find myself." Oliver closed his eyes and felt a choking despair. "So, you really want to go?" Evelyn burst into tears. "I'm sorry, Oliver. I didn't mean to hurt you. I just need some time, some space, to figure out what I really want. Please, can you give me some time?" Oliver didn't answer. He just sat there stonily, letting the tears run down his face as Evelyn stumbled up the stairs and locked herself in her room. Downstairs, Oliver sat motionless, feeling the world fall apart. Over the next few days, Oliver and Evelyn became strangers. They stopped talking to each other and tried to avoid each other's eyes. Oliver went to work like a zombie, but he couldn't concentrate. His coworkers could see that something was wrong with him, but they didn't know how to comfort him. Oliver began to drink heavily. Every day after work, he would go to the bar to get drunk and stagger home late into the night. But Evelyn was oblivious. Oliver didn't know where she went and couldn't afford to ask. The vow between them seems to have become a cruel joke. One night, Oliver got so drunk at the bar that he almost got into a fight. The bartender had to take him out of the bar and leave him in the cold, windy street, where Oliver huddled in a corner, letting the cold wind blow in his face. He was suddenly overcome with grief and cried out. He cried at his own weakness and failure. He swore he would give Evelyn a happy home, but in the end, he became the cage that bound her. He thought of his daughter, Lily, and her innocent smile, and his heart was cut to pieces. He was a bad husband and a failed father. Perhaps it was best for Evelyn to leave him. Maybe she deserved a better life. Oliver stumbled through the empty streets, his feet wobbly and his vision blurred. He walked aimlessly, not knowing where he was going. All he knew was that he could never go back to his cozy home and his old life. Oliver shivered as a biting wind blew. He realized that he had walked onto a bridge without realizing it. Underneath the bridge, the dark river roared and rushed with a terrifying roar, and Oliver walked to the edge of the bridge by mistake and climbed up onto the railing. In the distance, the lights of Seattle twinkled in the night, and the once familiar streets seemed so far away, so strange. The once familiar streets seemed so far away, so strange, and Oliver suddenly felt exhausted, as if he was tired of everything. What was the point of living? What is there to love about this world? He slowly closed his eyes, leaned forward, and was about to let go of his hand. Oliver! A heartbreaking cry sounded behind him, and Oliver turned around in a trance, only to see Evelyn appearing on the bridge at some point, looking up at him with tears streaming down her face. "Are you crazy? Get down here!" Evelyn shouted hoarsely. Oliver looked at her woodenly, a miserable smile pulling at the corners of his mouth. "Go back, Eve, leave me alone. You'll be better off without me." "No!" Evelyn cried as she lunged and threw her arms around Oliver's waist. "Don't even think about leaving me alone. We swore we'd face everything together, remember?" Oliver looked at his wife's tear-stained face and felt his heart break. Yes, how could he forget? How could he forget their vows, forget the good things they had done? Even if life is difficult, even if the road ahead is bumpy, he must hold his wife's hand firmly and walk together. Oliver finally burst into tears. He hugged Evelyn back, and the two of them hugged each other tightly on the bridge, their tears mingling. "I'm sorry, Eve, I was wrong." Oliver choked. "I shouldn't have ignored your feelings. I shouldn't have pushed you over the edge. From now on, I swear, no matter what happens, I'll be by your side. We'll face it together, okay?" Evelyn buried herself in his arms, sobbing uncontrollably and nodding her head. That night, Oliver and Evelyn sat by the bridge and talked about their grievances and frustrations over the years. They decided to give each other a chance to start over and repair their broken relationship, with Oliver promising to slow down his work and spend more time with her and Lily, and Evelyn promising to keep her distance from Jack and focus on running the family. As the sky turned white, Oliver took Evelyn's hand and slowly walked off the bridge. The light of dawn poured over them and the sleeping city, and Oliver knew that he and Evelyn still had a long way to go. Scarred feelings needed time to heal, and broken trust needed to be pieced back together little by little. But he believes that as long as they walk hand in hand, there's nothing they can't overcome. Because this time, he will not let go of her hand. After that sleepless night, Oliver and Evelyn's marital crisis gradually eased up. They began to try to communicate and learn to understand and tolerate each other. Oliver reduced his overtime hours, came straight home from work, and even took on the task of taking care of Lily. Evelyn tightened up her relationship with Jack and focused more on her family. One evening, Oliver left work early to give Evelyn a surprise. When he pushed open the door, the house was silent. Oliver was a bit puzzled, gently walked into the living room, but found a note on the coffee table, which was left by Evelyn. "Dear Oliver, I'm picking up Lily from school and I might be late. Dinner's in the fridge, so make sure you heat it up. Love you, Evelyn." A warm feeling welled up in Oliver's heart. He suddenly realized that these days he had been too anxious, always doubting Evelyn's whereabouts, but ignoring her dedication and change. He decided to take this opportunity to prepare a surprise and give his wife a romantic date night. Oliver got busy. He cleaned the house, set the table, and lit scented candles that he had carefully chosen. He also went to Evelyn's favorite restaurant and brought back her favorite dishes. With everything in place, Oliver looked around with satisfaction, anticipating the return of his wife and daughter. But an hour passed, 2 hours passed, and Evelyn and Lily still hadn't returned, and Oliver fidgeted, pacing the living room, calling his wife countless times. But there was no answer. Fear gradually enveloped his heart. Lily's school is not far away, even if the transportation should not be so long. Could something have happened? Oliver couldn't sit still any longer. He rushed out of his house, drove down the street and searched, but still found nothing. He tried to suppress his panic and called the police, but was told that it would take 24 hours for the case to be filed. God, he prayed in his heart, please let them be safe. Late at night, Oliver sat at home alone, listening to the clock ticking away, the seconds passing by, but it was incredibly long and hard to get through. He kept thinking back to the past with Evelyn, regretting that he hadn't expressed his apologies earlier and given her the care she deserved. Now, he could only pray to God to give him another chance to make amends. Oliver fell asleep on the couch without realizing it. In a haze, he heard the sound of a key in the door. Rubbing his sleepy eyes, he realized that it was light out and Evelyn was standing in the doorway with a sleeping Lily in her arms, looking tired. "Eve, where have you been? I've been so anxious." Oliver rushed up and wrapped his wife and daughter in his arms. Evelyn sighed and patted him on the back. "I'm sorry, Ollie. It's my fault. Yesterday I got a call from Lily's school saying that she had fallen in the playground and asked me to go to the hospital with her for a checkup. I panicked and forgot to tell you." Oliver realized that his daughter's arm was in a cast. He kissed Lily's forehead in pain. "It's okay, Daddy's here. In the future, when something like this happens, you have to tell me first, okay?" Evelyn nodded, her eyes a little moist. "Thank you, Oliver. It's been a very scary day. I'm glad Lily's okay." Oliver wrapped his arms around his wife, feeling her warmth. "I'm sorry, Eve. I've been neglectful. I should have shared more of the family responsibilities instead of leaving you with all the stress. From now on, I promise, I'll be a better husband and father. Let's work together and face life together, okay?" Evelyn leaned into her husband's arms and finally smiled a tired smile. "I'm sorry too, Ollie. I shouldn't have worried you so much. You were right. We should have been honest with each other instead of pushing each other away. I love you, Oliver, now and forever." Oliver kissed his wife on the lips and felt more secure than ever. They embraced for a long time, until the sky turned white in the east. A brand new day had begun, and a new life was about to begin for them. Oliver and Evelyn both realized a lot from that day's experience. They realized that true love is not just about big vows, but also about long-lasting companionship, and they began to really open up and listen to each other. They begin to open up and listen to each other. Oliver devotes himself to the family, and Evelyn regains her zest for life. Although arguments and misunderstandings are inevitable, they learn to communicate sincerely and resolve conflicts with tolerance and love. Gradually, Oliver found himself falling in love with this kind of ordinary happiness. Looking at Lily's innocent smile and Evelyn's beautiful face, he suddenly realized that this was the life he really wanted. Once, he put too much emphasis on his career, but neglected the most valuable things around him. Now, he has to spend all his time to make up for it and cherish the people in front of him. One weekend a year later, Oliver and Evelyn took Lily to the beach for a vacation. As he watched his daughter run and play on the beach, Oliver suddenly felt a sense of a lifetime ago. Once upon a time, he had almost lost it all. He held his wife's hand tightly and gave thanks in his heart. "What's on your mind?" Evelyn asked softly, leaning against his shoulder. Oliver smiled. "Thinking about how lucky I am. Lucky that I have you and this family. This is my second chance, and I'm not going to miss it." Evelyn stared at him, her eyes full of tenderness. "I'm the lucky one. Oliver, thanks for not giving up on me, on us. I know we still have a long way to go, but with you, I have nothing to fear." Oliver kissed his wife on the forehead and took her into his arms. In the distance, the setting sun was slowly falling into the sea level, coloring the sky into a golden yellow. The warm wind whipped by, rolling up the white waves, and Oliver suddenly felt that all this was so beautiful, so worth cherishing. Oliver knew that there was a long way to go, and he and Evelyn still had countless more years to go through together, and countless more difficult hurdles to overcome together. But he believes that as long as they hold each other's hands firmly, there is nothing to fear. Because love is the companionship and fulfillment of a lifetime. For each other in the marriage, we should learn to be honest, learn to listen, learn to understand. When the crisis comes, do not easily say give up, but to run the relationship with heart. Perhaps we are not the perfect partner, but it is this imperfection, so that life has more possibilities, so that love has more color. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a story to share about your own or someone else's experience, please feel free to contact me. Take care.